CBSE Science, Class 9, Chapter 2, Is Matter Around Us Pure?
Let us learn the chemistry chapters through questions and answers, which most of the students prefer. Note that PG here is for page, PR for paragraph in your textbook, and questions are in yellow color while answers are in white color.
What are the properties of colloid? A colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. The size of particles of a colloid is too small to be individually seen by naked eyes. Colloids are big enough to scatter a beam of light passing through it and make its path visible. They do not settle down when left undisturbed. That means, a colloid is quite stable. Which type of colloid is clouds, mist, and fog? Clouds, mist, and fog are examples of aerosol type of colloid. Why different methods of separation are used to get individual components? We have learned that most of the natural substances are not chemically pure. Different methods of separation are used to get individual components from a mixture. Separation makes it possible to study and use the individual components of a mixture. How mixtures are separated to get individual components? Heterogeneous mixtures can be separated into their respective constituents by simple physical methods, handpicking, sieving, filtration that we use in our day-to-day life. Sometimes special techniques have to be used for the separation of components. How individual components of ink is separated? We find that ink is a mixture of a dye in water. Thus, we can separate the volatile component, solvent, from its non-volatile solute by the method of evaporation. How we can separate cream from milk? Sometimes the solid particles in a liquid are very small and pass through a filter paper. For such particles, the filtration technique cannot be used for separation. Such mixtures are separated by centrifugation. The principle is that the denser particles are forced to the bottom and the lighter particles stay at the top when rotated rapidly. Can you state the applications of centrifugation? Used in diagnostic laboratories for blood and urine tests. Used in dairies and home to separate butter from cream. Used in washing machines to squeeze out water from wet clothes. How can you separate two immiscible liquids? The principle is that immiscible liquids separate out in layers depending on their densities. We can use a separating funnel for this purpose. How can you separate salt and camphor? We know that camphor changes directly from solid to gaseous state on heating. So, to separate such mixtures that contain a sublimable volatile component from a non-sublimable impurity, the sublimation process is used. Some examples of such sublimable solids are ammonium chloride, naphthalene, and anthracene. Why the drop of ink spread upwards in chromatography as the water rises? This process of separation of components of a mixture is called chromatography. Chroma in Greek means color. This technique was first used for separation of colors, so this name was given. Chromatography is the technique used for separation of those solutes that dissolve in the same solvent. Can you state the applications of chromatography? To separate the following: 1. Colors in a dye. 2. Pigments from natural colors. 3. Drugs from blood. Which method is used to separate a mixture of two miscible liquids? This method of separation of components of a mixture containing two miscible liquids, here acetone and water, is called distillation. For this mixture is boiled without decomposition and components have sufficient difference in their boiling points. Air is a mixture of different gases. How to separate these from air? To separate a mixture of two or more miscible liquids, gases for which the difference in boiling points is less than 25 K, fractional distillation process is used. Example, for separation of different gases of air, or different fractions from petroleum. The apparatus is similar to that for simple distillation, except that a fractionating column is fitted in between the distillation flask and the condenser. A simple fractionating column is a tube packed with glass beads. The beads provide surface for the vapors to cool and condense repeatedly, as shown in the figures. End of this part. Dear students, share your doubts and questions to this email. The question answers of this chapter 2 is Matter Around Us Pure will be continued in the next videos.